Now that we've established that dietary cholesterol isn't the monster we thought, we need to identify the actual culprit in heart disease, and that's saturated fat. This distinction is absolutely critical because it changes everything about how we should be thinking about eggs and breakfast foods in general. Here's how saturated fat actually damages your cardiovascular system. When you consume saturated fat, it triggers your liver to overproduce cholesterol, specifically LDL cholesterol, which is the type that accumulates as plaque in your arteries. This is completely different from eating dietary cholesterol, which, as we discussed, your body can regulate pretty well. Saturated fat essentially hijacks your liver's cholesterol production system. The research here is striking. There's a landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that really drives this home. They had people eat 2 eggs daily on a low saturated fat diet, and their LDL cholesterol actually went down. Meanwhile, people on a high saturated fat diet without any eggs showed no cardiovascular benefit whatsoever. Think about that for a moment. The eggs weren't the problem, the saturated fat was. So where is all this saturated fat coming from? The major sources are red meat, butter, cheese, coconut oil, palm oil, and processed meats. One egg contains just 1.6 grams of saturated fat, which is actually quite modest. But here's where people get into trouble. It's the typical egg accompaniments that destroy any health benefits. A sausage patty adds 5 to 8 grams. A slice of cheese adds another 5 to 6 grams. Cook it all in butter and you're adding 2 to 3 more grams. Suddenly you're at 15 to 20 grams of saturated fat in one meal. Current guidelines recommend keeping saturated fat below 10% of your total calories. For someone eating 2,000 calories daily, that's less than 20 grams. Many people blow through their entire daily limit with one breakfast sandwich, and they don't even realize it. The implementation here requires being strategic. You need to identify where your saturated fat is coming from, calculate your daily intake honestly, and make smart food swaps. Replace butter with olive oil. Choose fish over red meat several times a week. If you're going to have an egg, use egg whites to boost protein without adding fat. Read nutrition labels religiously because saturated fat content varies dramatically between products. What's really eye-opening is how saturated fat content accumulates in typical breakfasts. People think they're making a reasonable choice, but they're actually setting themselves up for cardiovascular problems over time. A breakfast sandwich from a fast food restaurant can easily contain your entire day's saturated fat allowance, and most people don't stop eating saturated fat after breakfast. The practical breakfast makeover involves enjoying your eggs while ruthlessly minimizing saturated fat from other sources. That means cooking methods matter enormously, which we'll explore in depth later, but it also means rethinking what belongs on your breakfast plate. The egg can stay, it's the butter, sausage, bacon, and cheese that need to go or be drastically reduced.